Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Discovery Season 5. In this video I will talk about Star Trek Discovery Season 5 as a whole, so I'll have to start with a spoiler warning for up to the very end of Season 5 of Star Trek Discovery. If you have not seen all of the final season of Discovery, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, I've said this before in my reviews of each episode. In case you missed it, I'll repeat what I said, which is this is very clearly my favorite season of Discovery. I was actually surprised on how good this season is, and I do believe that Discovery finally got good. It came up with its best season, which indicated that it would be able to make more great seasons after this, and then it gets canceled. To be fair, it took it quite a while to find its footing. In my opinion, the first 3 seasons were mixed bags at best. There were some good elements in those first 3 seasons, but also terrible elements, and those more or less were pretty equal throughout those first 3 seasons, the good and the bad. Season 4 was definitely a huge improvement. It was, previous to this season, my favorite season of Discovery. It improved on a lot of things, but it still made some mistakes, and it still had some issues with the pacing, because that was Discovery's biggest flaw, is each season relied on a mystery box. Ooh, what's the mystery? What's going on? Ooh. And most seasons did not have a very satisfying resolution to that mystery box. And moreover, the pacing was just very off. The story felt stretched too thin, or sometimes they'd move very fast, and other times they'd move slowly, and there would be a lot of filler that didn't really have anything to do with anything. And so they just had they just did a very bad job at pacing out the stories. Now, a lot of the naysayers, the Discovery haters, which to be clear I'm not one of them, would say that Star Trek shouldn't be serialized, which is a statement I couldn't possibly disagree with more. I think Star Trek absolutely should be serialized. I think Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise were at its best when they were serialized. I didn't put Voyager in there because they purposely avoided serialization, which is why that was more of a problematic show. If they had embraced serialization, it would have been a much, much better show. And particularly, and you might say, well, the Next Generation was very episodic. I'm going through it right now, especially season 4. There's a lot of continuity in TNG that they slipped in there. Not as much in Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, but still quite a bit. Deep Space Nine and Enterprise really embraced the serialization, especially towards the end of their respective shows, which is why those were amazing. So I disagree with the sentiment that Star Trek shouldn't be serialized. However, I do agree that the serialization wasn't working for Discovery and Picard, but Picard is another issue. But that didn't have anything to do with the fact that serialization wasn't a good idea for Trek. It had to do with the fact that they weren't doing it correctly for Discovery until, of course, we get to Season 4. Now, Season 4, as I said, still had some pacing issues, but it did a much better job. The mystery box had a much better reveal. It was more character-based, more interesting, and better written stories. It was would have been better if it was like an 8-episode season instead of a 13-episode season. Season 5 by far had the best pacing of any season. I don't know if I'd go as far to say it was amazing pacing, but it definitely wasn't terrible. I do think that the pacing in Season 5 was really, really good. Because, so in my opinion, Season 5 had a slow start. It had 3 episodes which were okay. Like, I didn't think they were terrible. And to be fair, I thought they were above average. I didn't think they were just mediocre either. But I didn't think they were great. Like, I would give them, I think I gave it, I don't know, like 8 out of 10 for the first one, 7 out of 10 for the second one, 7 out of 10 for the third one. Sounds about right. So they were fine, but they were definitely, to me, the start of the season had a slow start. It came off as more of the typical Discovery issues I've been having with it. Not the pacing issues, but the over-sentimentality and the spinning camera and and the Burnham having to be the action hero. It seemed to rely on those typical Discovery tropes, but it was still good. Still had a promising start. But then, once we get into episode 4... they just hit the ground running with great episode after great episode after great episode after great episode. Now, I can't remember exactly the ratings I gave these episodes, but I'm pretty sure that all of them got at least an 8 or higher. In fact, if I'm not too mistaken, I think most of them got a 9 or a 10. Actually, I think I talked in one of my reviews, I think it was episode 8, that I gave that episode an 8 just because I was sick of handing out 9s like they were candy. Because it seemed like I was giving every episode a 9, although in retrospect I think I would give that episode a 9. I was just trying to be fair to it. So it was pretty much, and episode 4, of course, the time travel one, gets a 10. That was quite possibly my favorite episode of Discovery, or at least it's in the running. I'm not ready to say that for sure. I think it was clearly my favorite episode of the season. That is for sure. There's a Daedalus Project in season 2, which famously I called my second favorite episode of Modern Trek. So that would be a bit of a competition there, and I'm not ready to make that determination. But definitely an amazing episode. They did the version of Shattered, the Voyager episode, but much better. And it was a great, and it just so happened to be the final season. They didn't know this when they were making that episode. And it was a great send-off to Discovery. It honored everything that had came before, and also pushed the character stories forward, particularly that of Raynor, the new character we were introduced to this season, and also Burnham and her relationship troubles with books. So it was just an amazing episode. But then after that, you got the reveal that Locke is a Breen, and we finally get to see what Breen look like without the helmets on. We get a lot more lore about the Breen, which was fucking amazing that they would actually do that. And we get the backstory of Locke and Mull, who in the first 3 episodes I thought came off as kind of cliche and boring villains, but this episode made them interesting. And then you get a really interesting Prime Directive-esque episode, which I thought was a really good character story for Burnham and Tilly. And then after that you get a really intense, I believe, you get the intense showdown with the Breen and Locke dying, and them trying to, threatening to attack Starfleet Academy, Starfleet headquarters, and them having to deal with that. And then after that, you get the floating space library thingy that the Breen are threatening to attack, which is another good character story for Burnham, and it really raised the stakes with the Breen, and ends with the Locke's uncle being killed and Mull taking over, which was a great twist. And then you get the penultimate episode, Lagrange Point, which I actually did give another 10 out of 10 to for this episode, and I stand by that. In fact, I do believe that this was better than the finale, the penultimate episode. It was, when Burnham and Book go undercover as Breen, and you have Reese and Adira on the bridge trying to sabotage the Breen. It was so intense. Probably one of the most action-packed, intense episodes of the show. And then the finale, which I stand by my 9 out of 10 for the finale. I think the finale could have been better. I think they did have some issues with it wasn't nearly as action-packed or intense. The storyline with the Discovery being under attack felt kind of like they were just going through the paces, and it was nothing amazing. But I did really like the character stuff with Burnham. I liked the resolution with getting the progenitive technology and deciding to just fuck it off and not keep it. And then the bookends of the show, no pun intended, I really loved that the way it ended first with Saru's wedding, and then the extra scenes that they filmed to make it a series finale, which, to be fair, I think really worked. I just watched this review where this wrong guy, who's wrong, was saying that it did a huge disservice to the bridge characters, that they didn't get any dialogue. We focused more on Burnham's son, and all they got to do is just hug for a couple seconds with Burnham, and I could not possibly disagree with that more, because he's wrong. And I don't think it did a disservice to the characters. I think it really honored, like, the way they filmed it with Burnham, like, remembering going back to Discovery after years and remembering her time there, and this was like a symbolic gesture that really, to me, symbolized that her time with the crew meant something. And in fact, it's really the first time that I've really felt in Discovery that the crew felt like family. It's definitely not the first time they tried. I think they failed other times they tried. This is the first time I really felt like it was a really proper send-off. So that ending does make me appreciate this finale more, and that making me think that it was a good series finale. So that's why I push it up to a 9, even though there was a lot of mediocre stuff in that first part of the episode. Not all of it, though. There was still a lot of good stuff in the first part of that episode. So, yeah, point is, first 3 episodes were decent, not terrible, and above average, so pretty good. And then from episode 4 onwards, great episode after great episode after great episode after great episode. So easily, one of the best season of Discovery, and one of the best seasons of Modern Trek. I am not quite ready to rank the seasons of Modern Trek yet. I will say that I liked season 1 of Strange New Worlds better. But I think this might come second. It depends. I kind of had to rewatch Lower Decks, because maybe Lower Decks season 5, not 5, that hasn't come out yet. 4 Lower Decks season 4 might give it a run for its money. I don't know. I'd have to look at it. But I think that's the only season that might be in contention. Maybe season 3 of Lower Decks 2. That's also a good season. But none of the other ones. Not Prodigy season 1, not the first 2 seasons of Lower Decks, and certainly not any of the 3 seasons of Picard. I'm sorry for fans of Picard season 3, but no. That was a gigantic mixed bag, and those 2 part series finale of Picard was absolute garbage. I don't even think it's a mixed bag. I think it's flat out garbage. Almost as bad as Endgame, but definitely not as bad, because let's not go crazy here. But it's up there. So, but there were good things in season 3 of Picard, don't get me wrong, but it was a mixed bag, as I said, and this wasn't a mixed bag. This was a solid season. So yeah. So this is either my second or my third, or possibly my 4th favorite season of Modern Trek. Now, I can't really compare it to, I think one day I will compare it to the Legacy Trek, but it's hard to, because you can't really say, oh, there were no bad episodes in the season. What other season of Legacy Trek can say that? But they had 25, 26 episodes. They only had 10 episodes here, so it's a lot easier to not have any stinkers when you're only doing 10 episodes. Any writer for any of those shows will tell you that, TNG, DS9, Voyager. In fact, season 3 of TNG still pulls off not having any terrible episodes, even though they had 25 episodes. So that, to me, would automatically make it better than this one, because that was quite an accomplishment. But I don't know where it ranks with Legacy Trek. Now, let's talk about the Indiana Jones action-adventure theme of this season, which is what it's known for. And to be fair, when I first heard that was the theme they were going for this season, I was not very excited about that. I'm like, really? I don't know, it sounds kind of cheesy. And I do think it was a little bit cheesy in the first 3 episodes. Again, not terrible, because they still had some great action sequences. It was pretty suspenseful, but particularly with episode 3, I was getting a bit iffy on the premise. Kind of remind me of too much of a cliche of not so much Indiana Jones, but more of like Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur type thing. But first you must answer me these questions 3. Like that kind of thing, which seemed actually, to be honest, a bit ridiculous in a 24th century setting. And plus I couldn't get over the fact that they're talking, oh, this is an ancient puzzle. It's 800 years old, I believe. Was it 800-year-old puzzle. But the crew of Discovery from 900 years ago, so this puzzle is actually not as old as they are. So, I don't know. That just did my head in. But again, didn't think it was terrible, but I definitely think it picked up after episode 3. Not to say they still didn't do the answer me these questions 3 nonsense. They still did. But especially even in the finale where she has to put triangles in a certain shape to prove she's worthy. How does that prove her worthiness? But it didn't bother me as much, particularly like in episode 3 where they had she had to do a riddle or something. How does being able to do riddles prove you're worthy? Like, this whole thing about all these scientists are making you go through all these puzzles in order for you to prove that you're worthy. Well, really, the test of whether or not they're worthy should be, are they currently at war with the other species, which they are. The Breen were like attacking them when they were at the final thing, so that should have disqualified them from getting the technology right then and there. My humble opinion. But, again, I'm willing to overlook that because I think the journey of this season was so good. And this is the thing that I always latch on to, is the character stories. The character stories were really good in this season. I absolutely loved, again, as I said, with what they did with Maul and Locke was amazing. I thought these were flat, uninteresting, cliche villains at the start of the season, and then halfway through the season they became fully fleshed out, fascinating, interesting, relatable characters. And I'm like, wow. That is impressive. And also they introduced Raynor, who came in the first couple episodes, came off as kind of a dick, kind of a Jellicoe-esque bad captain asshole guy, and yet he went through a great character story, and I thought his character story was done so well. I thought it was completely earned. I did talk about over-sentimentality, which has always also been a really huge issue, along with pacing problems for Discovery, such as the season 2 finale, where we had to take 5 minutes break in the middle of a huge battle for Burnham to have a teary farewell with Spock, or like having a long drawn-out singing funeral for Ariam, who is a character we don't know at all. So, yeah, over-sentimentality has been a problem with this show. Even in season 4, they did do it a little bit. I don't think they did it at all in season 5. As I said, maybe a little bit in those first 3 episodes. But after that, I think their sentimentality was earned. Particularly that the sentimental ending. Earned. It wasn't like overly sentimental, Crimea River. And the moments like with Stamets having this fatherly moment with the deer, saying, oh, you've grown so much, or like Culber kissing Stamets right before he goes on his dangerous mission, saying, trust me. Like, that's earned. That is earned. So I think the sentimentality in season 5 really worked. So yes, you did have some characters sit out this season because the actors were off doing other projects, the biggest one being Saru, which is more of a shame because this is the final season. You have a feeling that had they done season 6, that he would have been more in it. But it is what it is. I do like how they handled Saru in the little episodes he was in, and also he was replaced with Rainer, who was a very good character as well. So I'm okay with that. Detmer and Awoshikin, these are nothing characters to begin with, so I wasn't that sad to see them go, except for the fact that they were replaced by two other nothing characters, which if we're going to have nothing characters, let's have the nothing characters that we know. But, I get that their actors were off doing other things. At least they had them return to Hugh Burnham at the end. Fine. I mean, again, it is what it is. Actors got other stuff to do. Now, the ending I did talk about a bit, but let me talk about the whole connecting it to the Calypso short. I know a lot of people had issues with it. I didn't, honestly. I mean, yes, maybe I did have a little bit of issue with it because it did seem kind of just like fast and kind of like, oh, you remember that? Sure, let's tie it up. Really fast. But I'm glad they did. I'd rather get this really quick, Easter egg or, pandering. Oh, look at this. I'd rather get that than nothing, if I'm being perfectly honest. If they never touched Calypso, that would have bothered me more. And that was also the thinking of the showrunners, apparently. Michelle Paradise and Alex Kurtzman thought the same thing. It's like, look, we can't just leave this hanging. We need to tie this up. Now, it's obvious that they completely changed it because it changed from their original plan, but that was inevitable. I did read something very interesting, though, that apparently the plan for season 6 was to do an entire season tying up the Calypso short. Now, people were complaining that, why is the show ending on some short trek that a lot of people haven't even seen? They really would have complained if an entire season was based off of a short trek that most people haven't even seen. But I would have liked it. And I think they would have been able to do it more justice if they had an entire season to do it. So I actually think that would have been good. And plus, as I said, the show proves that it finally got its footing. But in the great tradition of Enterprise, when a Star Trek show finally gets its footing is when it's canceled. Which sucks. And it's probably going to be the same thing for Lower Decks. Let's prep ourselves for season 5. Probably going to be the best season of Lower Decks. And then last one. Fuck you, Paramount Plus. Anyway, is it possible that these shows can be revived? Well, I actually think so, because they were canceled because Paramount's running out of money. And if something else happens to the studio, if they're bought out by another studio and they have an influx of money, maybe they might revive these shows. But I do agree that it's very unlikely. But, yeah, I think it is more likely that we will see these characters return in other shows, particularly the Starfleet Academy show. I think it's writings on the wall that Tilly's definitely going to be a main character of that show, and it's very likely that we will get guest spots from Discovery characters in that show as well. So that's all good in the hood. I'm totally for that. That would be fine by me. But it is a shame that we didn't get that Discovery season 6. Also, I kind of wouldn't want them to revive Discovery because the ending tied everything off so well. It's kind of like when Babylon 5 had a similar ending that jumped into the future and showed them as old people, and then they did like these made-for-TV movies that were trying to take place in between, and they sucked. I don't know, but maybe Discovery would be better at doing that than Babylon 5, but I still seriously doubt that that's going to happen. But anyway, yeah, my rating for Star Trek Discovery Season 5 as a whole is going to be a 9 excellent. Not quite a 10. It's a very strong 9. It's very close to a 10. In fact, if I had given any previous seasons of Discovery a 9, just assume that's been taken down a bit to an 8, except for season 4. I will say season 4 will remain a 9. However, that's a weak 9, whereas this is a strong 9. If that makes any sense. So this is a 9.4, because if it was a 9.6, then it would be a 10 because I round up. So let's say this is a 9.4, where season 4 of Discovery was like an 8.7. Again, I round up, which is what makes it a 9. But again, promise never to do decimal points. I do round up and I do round down, but just to give you an idea of the range here. I think season 5 of Discovery is definitely much stronger than season 4. But season 4 was a good season. They were both good seasons. Like, they were both the best of the show easily. They're both way better than the first 3. And I think, this is one of the best seasons of Modern Trek. What they did with the Brain was amazing. What they did with Mon Locke was amazing. What they did with Raynor was amazing. What they did with Burnham's character journey, particularly coming to terms with Book's betrayal, was amazing. I love how they addressed that, by the way, and didn't just wipe it under the carpet like some other shows might do. Voyager, excuse me. And the action-adventure thing was good as well. It worked because of the character stories, though. They had some great moments with Tilly, had some great moments with Adira, had some great moments with Stamets. Like, all the characters got their play throughout this season. And I think... And even the Culber storyline, I think that tied up quite nicely as well. So, I think this is a strong season. Very impressed with it. Almost a 10, but not quite. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Anyway, that is it for my review of Star Trek Discovery Season 5. Star Trek Discovery is over, sad face, but House of the Dragon is just about to begin. So I will be covering that show weekly on my channel. Twice a week I will be doing a video, a review on House of the Dragon each week. I'm going to try to make these reviews short, like under 10 minutes, but like I'm going to be able to. But I'm going to try. See if I succeed or how badly I fail at doing that. Like, you look at the timestamp and it says 58 minutes or something. I'm going to try to get it under 10. But in addition to those reviews for House of the Dragon, I will be doing a much longer video, over an hour, typically, where I'll be doing a live stream. I think Alyssa, my sister Alyssa from Alyssa Jean Reviews, will join me for most of those, and Darren from D's Reviews will join me for most of those. So we'll have the gang here talk about House of the Dragon each week. So I'll do my quick review and then come on and do a live stream. That's what's the go. With this channel, and of course later in the season when Lower Decks and hopefully Prodigy, even though that dropped in France like 6 months ago and yet still waiting for Netflix to release the fucking thing. Hopefully that will happen sometime, and Lower Decks were promised at the end of the year. I will be covering those when they come as well. I'm not going to be covering shows like Rings of Power or The Accolade. I might do like one video once they're done, especially not Rings of Power. I covered that last time, and that's kind of a waste of my time. I am trying to focus more on doing my Next Generation reviews because I want to cover every single episode of Legacy Trek. And I don't want to be doing it for the next 5 years. So I'm actually trying to go quite fast, doing like 3 or 4 episodes a week. So I do want to focus more on that than current shows. But as I said, I always stop what I'm doing for Star Trek. So when Lower Decks and Prodigy comes, I will be. Although Prodigy, I might not do an episode by episode, because if Netflix drops it all at once, then I'm going to do one big review for it. I'm not going to try to splinter them off in different episodes. Or maybe I will, but I'll release them like rapid fire. But I don't know. I think it would be more likely I'd just do one big review for it. But anyway, because again, I want to focus more on getting these legacy treks done. As I said, at the moment, covering Season 5 of Next Generation, so I still got a long way to go. I still got 2 more seasons of TNG, plus 7 seasons of Deep Space Nine, 7 seasons of Voyager, 4 seasons of Enterprise. So when I get through these. Anyway, because that's my goal, and I don't want to be doing it for the next 5 years. So I'm going to try to focus more on that. But as I said, House of the Dragon, Lower Decks, definitely will be doing week to week this year. Anyway, so keep an eye out for that, and thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and have a good one.